I Call It Murder, Real One, final mix.
Our hospital is a hospital that other private hospitals dump on. And what that means is any patient that doesn't have money, any patient that's drunk or disorderly, they send to us. They often don't care what kind of shape the patient is in. We have many instances where patients arrive here unstable. In fact, we have many instances every year where patients arrive here and die because they were transferred inappropriately.
What's your view of this practice?
I call it murder.
This man, he got a butcher knife across the face from the top of his mouth up into his forehead over the hairline, and he was bleeding quite bad. He lost enough blood from his facial cut to drop his hematocrit, his concentration, to about half. That's a lot of blood. This man was shot in the chest. They had to wedge out a piece of his kidney, and he had a through-and-through wound of the liver. He came away pretty lucky. There's a lot of things that got missed on the way. The gentleman next to him got stabbed in the left lower quadrant down here. They got his sigmoid colon, which was leaking stool, of course, in the belly. Pretty gruesome.
What about down here? What's this?
Well, this gentleman got shot through and through the abdomen on the left side. His left kidney had to be fixed. They had to take out the distal part of his pancreas because that was bagged. His spleen had to come out because of a hole in that. He had to have a hole closed in his diaphragm because the bullet went up through the belly and into the chest.
It isn't frontline Vietnam, it's Southside Chicago on a Friday night.
The gentleman next to him got also shot in the belly. He got his duodenum through and through, his liver. He used one of 3 gallbladders that we had with bullets through them within 24 hours. In fact, during the day yesterday, they had to cancel almost every single elective case that the hospital had scheduled because we just had so many things running.
And what was this yesterday? Gang war or what?
Nope. I guess everybody's getting ready for the holidays. And we find that we get a lot of cases around the holiday time. I don't know if everybody starts celebrating, getting ready for their vacations. They go out drinking, and they just go out and start blasting and stabbing each other.
Do you reckon all of these are going to be all right by the time you're finished?
Sure. Most of them will be out here in a few days.
The Chicago they'll go out into is a city of sumptuous wealth and profound indifference.
All my life, I ain't had nothing but the blues.
The tallest building in the world commands a distant view over one of the meanest ghettos. They call this the armpit of America.
Seems like ever since I was 9 years old, I ain't had nothing but the blues.
For 100 years, whenever the disease and the violence have been too much, the victims have had at least a chance of help. They've had one of America's few free hospitals.
Just because I was born at the Cook County Hospital, I'll tell you as much, too valuable to lose.
Violence is routine here. The most common fatal complication of pregnancy is gunshot wound. If a country's hospitals are any indication of its state of mind, America is in trouble. Cook County is embattled and confused. It's struggling against cuts that threaten to close it down altogether, against shortages that make our health service look rich, and against another threat that no British hospital staff have to face, even in their worst nightmares. Chicago's been so violent for so long, 50 years ago the gangster massacres, 11 years ago the onslaughts by massed police on peaceful demonstrators and bystanders, that perhaps it's not surprising that violence has come inside the hospital. An armed black gang made their headquarters in this heating tunnel. Down here, beneath the operating theaters and the wards, they lived with their weapons and with some of their victims. When the police finally moved in, they found bodies that had been down here for months. Now they keep watch on closed-circuit television cameras, and to try and make sure that the population of the tunnel is never anything more dangerous than its rats and its wild cats, The hospital has its own armed police force.
Lawrence Hudson, post 4, lunch 1820.
To get free medicine in America, you must be either very cunning or very, very poor. If you declare an income that's so low that everyone knows you could never really survive on it, you're entitled to a green card and free treatment. But if you admit to earning enough to live, you're not entitled. Your only hope then is insurance, which many can't afford, or a hospital like Cook County.
Okay, could you rotate the table flat now?
Hard-pressed though it is, Cook County can still provide excellence. It's equipped for what they call gee-whiz surgery, like transplants, with some of the best surgeons in America. Dr. Olga Jonasson is a kidney specialist with a world reputation. And in the burns unit, there's the top team in the country. Arson, insurance fires, is commonplace in Chicago. The resulting caseload has attracted Dr. Matsuda, one of Japan's leading specialists. The extremes of sickness in every department at Cook County attract doctors from many countries.
What is her mother's maiden name?
At Cook County, they go through the motions of a means test. With the hospital facing closure for lack of funds, they're under pressure to collect what payments they can.
Yeah. Can I have the green card, please?
But if a bill's not paid, there's no fuss.
I know, you need no money here.
The principle of pay or die runs so deep in American medicine that even at Cook County, patients sometimes arrive convinced that it's no pay, no cure.
You don't need no money here, all right?
Many ghetto patients come in with alcoholism as a complication. This man has just collapsed at home. He's already had cirrhosis. Now something else is wrong, but they don't know what it is yet.
Okay, just lift up just a little bit, okay?
While one man fights for his life against one of the ghetto's great killers, liquor, Richard Hardy is facing another.
Well, this gentleman here got shot around 7-8 hours ago. The other hospital called where they transferred him, and they said that they saw the bullet in the right upper quadrant. He had been stable the whole time at the other hospital. With an injury like this, of course, we have to worry about the old heart.
So he was transferred from another hospital?
He was transferred from another hospital. We get a lot of those.
Why was he transferred?
Well, they said that they were trying to get their surgeon, and they weren't getting him right away. So they wanted to know if we wanted to take him. We get all sorts. We get lots of transfers. She didn't have a green card yet, so the hospital wouldn't take her. I was told she was in a domestic quarrel and was had some hot water and rice thrown at her.
Okay, why don't you
and
lift your
was
head
stabbed
up,
a couple of times, including the left shoulder, the left
for a pillow, all right?
and the chest, I believe.
No, I don't want you to lift up. Just lift your head up.
Yeah, they
okay?
transferred her for payment reasons.
Literally because for payment?
Yes. We always ask why. You know, they don't have the facilities, they don't have the beds, or they just say no insurance.
What do you think of that?
No comment.
Yes, sir. Okay, all right. There's a very slight chance or possibility, okay, that you may not come through the surgery, okay? Yeah. All right, you have to be aware of that. All right? Everything looks well enough that we won't have any problems and we'll be able to take care of everything. Okay, so it looks like you're going to make it and there won't be any problems with that regard. Okay, what I need from you now is a signature on this line here. Okay?
Richard Hardy is a transfer case.
Okay, can you see well?
Turned away by other hospitals, transfer patients have died on the way here. But if you're suddenly hurt, your impulse is to rush into the nearest hospital, like Louise Coleman did.
It was bleeding from here. I mean, the blood was just coming. I wrapped the towel on my hand leaving home, and I could wring it. I was bleeding that bad. All my clothes were just completely bloody. When I told the lady that I didn't have a green card to send home for, she asked me for an insurance policy. And I explained to her that I didn't have an insurance policy either. She said, well, the only thing we can do for you is try and get you transferred, get an ambulance and have you transferred.
You were lying in front of her with this blood-soaked towel around?
Yes, sir. I asked for the doctor that was on duty there in emergency, and the doctor was standing about 2 feet away from my stretcher on another one. He said, I am the doctor. And I said, doctor, could you do something to stop this bleeding? And he said, did my nurse tell you that you had to have an insurance policy or a medical green card? Then we can't treat you. The only thing we can do is get you an ambulance and try to have you transferred. I said, well, then by the time you get an ambulance, I could take myself. They didn't give me no mercy at all, no help, nothing.
Doctor, how serious was Mrs. Coleman's injury?
The laceration of the forearm was the most severe that I have seen outside of shotgun wounds to the arm. One of the major arteries, both of the major nerves, and almost all of the muscles and tendons to the hand were cut in half. She was immediately taken to surgery, and it took 6 hours to perform the preliminary repair of her injuries. And in another week or so, she'll require another lengthy operation to attempt to repair the main nerve to her hand.
I didn't know that I was hurt as bad as otherwise I wouldn't have went there in the first place, because nobody goes to Loretta Hospital because everybody gets turned around.
Friends of yours this has happened to?
Lots of them. Lots of them. Because the neighborhood has changed from a white to a black neighborhood in the last 10 years, and they won't accept the fact that we're there. And that's all there is to it. And when you go there, unless you are a public aid recipient, you just don't get treated. They sent me a bill for $62 for an emergency fee, and I haven't been touched over there.
They sent you a bill?
Yes, sir, I received the bill. My daughter brought it out here to the hospital to show it to me the other day.
Did you have
You
any
see,
treatment
because
at all when you were
I
there?
had no treatment at all, sir. The moment that you walk in, they sign you into emergency, you sign yourself in, and they put you on a stretcher and push you to the side. And your signature automatically makes you owe them $62, and that's their emergency fee.
That's right, and I don't even have to do it.
You were sent here by another hospital. Why was that?
They said they didn't have no bed.
They said?
Didn't have no bed.
They didn't have any beds.
A bed.
And what's the matter with you?
I have pneumonia.
Pneumonia.
Yeah.
Do you believe they didn't have any beds?
Well, no, I didn't, to be honest. I didn't believe it.
Doctor, why do you think this lady was transferred? What do the papers say?
She was transferred because of no beds available.
Is the hospital that has no beds available a big hospital?
The buildings is, I can't give you the numbers of beds, but they're a big academic hospital. They're affiliated with University of Chicago. It's a reputable
Do you find
place.
it plausible that they have no beds available at the moment?
Probably not.
So why would they say they haven't?
They may not want to take care of the patient. It's not uncommon. She's poor, she's black, you know, and they may not, they just don't want the patient, you know.
Our patients have always been the people in this city that are in the worst health. And right now, most of our patients are black and Latino. The state doesn't want to spend money on our kind of patients because they're black and brown.
Because they're black or because they're poor?
Both. Both. If you look at whites and poor blacks have worse health care than richer whites. But even if you look at them compared to people on the same income level, non-whites have worse health care. They have less access to the system.
Now, there's a move to close down this hospital. What will happen if that goes through?
If this hospital closes down, then that means that hundreds of people in this city will die. They will die quietly, but they will die.
It's said that they'll simply be taken in by some of the other 70-odd hospitals in Chicago.
Well, that's never been true. It's not true now. It's clear that in other cities, for example, Philadelphia, where the public hospital was closed, that has not happened. The private hospitals will not, and they say they cannot, but certainly they will not accept large numbers. Certainly 1 or 2 might get in. But there will still be hundreds of people in the city, men, women, and children, who will die because they don't have health care.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
That's right, take it off. Take it off.
Why?
Ain't no,
Why?
no.
Why?
Pressing against this. It hurts.
Wait, okay. Let me fix it.
Oh, that's all right.
Is that better? Okay? Does that help you breathe?
Did you get kicked or anything like that? Did you get knocked out? Have you moved your bowels since... What's bothering you besides your arms? Do you have any trouble breathing? Not at all? Any pain in your chest? Can you move your fingers? Let me see you move your fingers. All of them. All of them. Here, I'll grab this.
The man who collapsed is conscious now, but apart from cirrhosis, they still aren't clear what's wrong.
Breathe in and out. Take deep breaths.
Alcoholic who came in confused, with almost in shock, basically, with almost no blood pressure, with an abnormally low temperature, and he has some signs on his cardiogram that he has some. He's not perfusing his heart properly. He's probably completely infected, possibly from pneumonia. He's got all the complications of alcoholism. His liver is not working right.
Do you see a lot of this sort of thing?
Lots and lots of it.
Okay, all right. Okay, just lie down for 2 minutes, okay? Just for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm worried.
Minutes later, the doctor's worries will prove to be right.
Huh? Okay, we'll give you cold water. Okay. Are you all right?
The patient's heart has stopped.
Tube, come on. Come on.
Can we lower the bed a little bit?
Can you charge up the defibrillator? Can you charge up the defibrillator?
Hold off a minute. It's got a slow, junctional rhythm.
Ben Simon. I could probably running cold.
By chance, he has a heart rate and he has a heart rhythm, but it is not what should be the normally. And we are trying to maintain his heart so that it keep on beating, try to ventilate him so that he, at least we have a respiration. And if he can come back to his original rhythm, maybe we can start.
How do you rate the chances?
Well, I'll say poor.
Drugs and alcohol are just rampant in the city of Chicago. Alcohol is probably the leading cause of disease in patients who are admitted to this hospital. And why? The question why a community and why a community is more prone to be on alcohol is purely social. And it's related to their inability to survive in the setting, the economic and political setting of this city at this time. And it's more than this city, it's related to this country also.
What proportion of your patients have drug or alcohol problems?
Oh, I think it's, in my experience in the 6 years I've been here, I would say approximately a third of the patients have an alcohol is one of their major problems upon admission. Anywhere from 10 to 20%, more than that, will have some drug-related problem, whether it's intravenous or oral abuse of some type of drug, non-alcoholic drug.
That seems to suggest that something like half the adult community around here is seeking oblivion one way or another.
Yeah, I would have no
drugs or
trouble
alcohol.
saying that 50% of the patients have some type of drug-related problem if you include alcohol.
I came up the hard way. I had to work from sun to sun. I came up the hard way. I had to work from sun to sun. And from sun up to sundown. Well, it seems somehow or another that a poor man's work ever done.
For more than half a century, the blues have been one of the few truly vital things to come out of the ghettos. America's ghettos are her own underdeveloped areas, her private third world, pockets of repressed life where the whites often do little more than hold the lid down and where a white camera crew doesn't go without police protection.
Are many of the people you deal with here armed or likely to be armed?
There's quite a few of them carrying knives. Some carry, you know, larger weapons, guns and whatnot, but a lot of them carry knives. And they do this for self-protection.
Does that include kids?
Oh yeah, sure. Here.
Like, are these kids over here?
I believe that this kid is carrying machakas. You any good with those? You any good with those? No. Huh? You want to be on television? Yeah. Huh? What you doing, guys? Anything good?
Nothing.
You getting ready to go to school?
Yeah.
Yeah? What school you go to?
Crane.
Crane? What year?
First.
You play football?
Yeah.
Huh? You any good?
Yeah.
Do you can beat me in a foot race?
And what?
You know me? Huh?
We all know how to flip.
You don't know how to flip, huh?
Yeah.
There you go. Being in gymnastics.
Yeah.
Hi, cuz.
Hi.
Popsicles any good?
Huh?
Popsicles any good?
Yeah.
All right. You guys want to step back from the car now?
Yeah.
You watch 6 o'clock news tonight. You'll be on television.
Where?
6 o'clock news, Channel 7. Channel 7.
Aren't they going to be a bit disappointed when they find they're not?
Well, they're happy to see somebody with a camera. They think they're going to be on television. Uh-huh. When did you get shot?
It's been about 1.5 and
What was it, at night?
about 4 o'clock in the morning,
Where?
right by Viana's.
Anybody else get shot?
No.
Where did you go for treatment when you were shot?
Cook County Hospital. And I was trying to show them where they hit me at. By me using narcotics, you know, they talking about they can't get no IV nowhere else but there.
Yeah, the veins collapse.
The other doctor said, wait a minute, this lady in pain. So he took the IV and put the IV in my arm.
What were they trying to stick it in your neck?
Yeah, he stuck me in my neck about 7, 8 times.
Yeah, he couldn't find a, what was he looking for, the jugular vein?
I don't know what he was looking for. I don't think he could hit. He can take care of his business.
You all right?
Yeah, I need some air.
You need some air. Here, let me turn it around a little bit. How's that?
That's good.
You okay?
It's hard to believe, after seeing you talk to that girl just now, that there's really much hope for her.
I really don't know. I don't see why she's going to change her lifestyle. She's probably been working on the street as a prostitute since she was about 13, I imagine. I've known her for about 5 years, and she's a prostitute, and she uses narcotics. And that's about all she has to look forward to. I don't even know if she has any children. I don't know how I'd react put in the same circumstances. I really don't know how I'd react, whether I'd be ripping people off every day to get money, or whether I'd try to get a job and do the knocks that some of these guys are doing today. I don't know. I really don't. I'm content being a policeman. Maybe.
Very soon what happened to my name.
I don't know what she hit me with.
I don't know.
How long you been together? How long we been together? Shit. Now what's wrong with her? Go off like that.
You the one went off. You the one went off.
Cut it out. What happened?
He started.
What I do?
Right, he's gonna open right on the side. But I need you to get along. Once you know when you're getting up your slick.
A man's quarrel with his wife brings one more patient to the threatened hospital. The leader of the fight to keep Cook County open is the Director of Medicine, Dr. Quentin Young. Twice he's been sacked for his outspoken campaigning. Twice he's won his job back through the courts. He keeps the fight going, a caring doctor in what seems to be an increasingly uncaring profession.
Medically, we are dealing with people with extreme neglect. Their disease processes typically are very advanced, and they suffer the ravages of everything a society can do to a person in the workplace, in their homes, nutritionally, violence, a large amount of reaction to drug use and abuse, alcohol use and abuse. Socially, we're dealing with the poor, some might say the wretched of the earth, but many of our patients are good, hardworking people who, when they're able, are in productive labor. Many are on the junk heap of the work process, damaged by occupational diseases of all sorts. And many, many form the unemployed, the welfare population, the hundreds of thousands of people that this city and those like it have who are outside the productive process in many ways.
It's not a nebulous concept to say that racism doesn't have an effect on people's health. The government figures are very clear. Hypertension is 60 times higher among non-whites than whites. Heart attacks are 3 times higher among non-whites than whites. Strokes are 3 times higher. You can go right down the list. Maternal deaths are higher. Infant deaths are twice as high for non-white babies as white babies. And when you ask yourself why this happens and what racism means, well, this is one area where it's clear to see what it means.
How did you get shot? It was over disturbing with this girl I used to mess around with. She had laid here and bought the kids some shoes the other day. And she invited me in to get the shoes. Okay, I steps in the door. I'm looking down a gun barrel. Boom, hits me in my chest. I gets up. I runs out the door. I gets on the elevator. I get on the elevator. I run downstairs. The elevator takes me downstairs. Then after that,
she was going to shoot you again?
No, I didn't look back. I didn't look back. You know.
She's your girlfriend, or she was your girlfriend?
Yeah.
How surprised were you when she shot you?
Oh, this took a whole lot out of me.
Oh. Even by Chicago standards, that's a bit rough, isn't it?
Right.
How many times have you been shot?
5 times.
5 times? Why so often?
I guess that's the way I was living.
Are you hearing anything or seeing anything unusual? You don't see anything crawling on the walls, do you, Stanley? No. You ever had the DTs before? No, you never did? You had the shakes, though. Yeah. They think you might be going into a withdrawal. You look pretty good, though.
It is.
one of the most deprived communities that you will ever come across in the world, in the sense that it is culturally deprived, it is financially deprived, educationally deprived, and deprived of good health. Basically, the people who come from the south side of Chicago, i.e. the ghettos, do not have GPs, general practitioners, as we know them at home. So, therefore, the first physician they meet is a physician in the emergency room of a hospital. They have no primary care physician to deal with coughs and colds. And to come to the emergency room of Cook County means at the least a 4-hour wait, and at the most maybe a 12-hour wait. So therefore, they're not going to come unless they're very sick. And if they do come, they usually abscond after about the 2nd or 3rd hour, and you're wondering, gosh, did somebody very sick leave?
Say, Doc.
Yeah.
Doc, will you please do something about my knee? Now, I've been coming in since last week about my motherfucking knee. Now, what I had to do? What I had to do? Die? What I had to do? Die before I get some treatment for my knee?
Okay.
Dwayne Curtis has hemophilia. There's a lot of it in the ghetto. He gets into fights with the police and then comes in with internal bleeding.
Keep it right. Yeah, I went to the orthopedic clinic. They tell me, come back here, come back here. Look how swollen my knee is. Look at this knee, and look at that knee. Look at it. I come in there, I wanted to hit one of y'all in the face.
Okay.
Because y'all didn't treat it right in the first place. If how the hell if it was treated right? If it was treated right, it wouldn't be like it is now.
If you don't go out and get hit by the police, so by acting up, you wouldn't have the trouble.
Oh, use any excuse you want to use. But you know, when I come in here, y'all neglect me. You tell the security guy, I don't want to see him. He's a troublemaker because I talk too much for y'all. I can't even see a doctor. When can I see a doctor? When can I see a doctor?
You get seen in your turn, okay?
When my turn. Why you tell the security? We don't even want to see him. We don't even see him. Because I demand my rights. That's right. I got rights
before
to
other
be seen by a
patients
doctor.
who came in this hospital first, okay?
The fight to save the alcoholic patient has been going on for an hour and a half now.
Thought you wanted something to say? Yeah, you got one dose of that. Rich, you got 1/2 kilo of that. Same day.
Well, it takes about 5 minutes ago. You want the dope? I'm in full blood.
Blood test.
What can you do now?
Nothing.
Well, he's a cardiology fellow. He's supposed to be the person in charge in ICU. And what he thinks right now is that his heart is just having some electrical activity. It has no pumping effect. It is not pumping any blood. And probably our speculation is that he has some big aorta on the X-ray chest, so he's ruptured his aorta or something else.
In fact, that he's really dead.
Right. He's almost sort of, well, I can't say as long as he has got some mechanical activity going on, I can't say he's dead. But he's very close to that.
How long will you go on before you decide?
That's a big question in front of all of us. How long to go on?
But you don't follow doctor's
I'm abusive.
orders.
I'm abusive.
That's right.
I'm abusive. If I was abusive, I'd be up slapping you in your face. I'm not abusive.
No, if you did that, you'd be back in jail.
No.
Okay.
Look at me. Can't you see I'm scared to death? This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I'm verbally telling the truth, and the truth hurts you.
No, the
and it
truth
hurt
doesn't
all y'all.
hurt me.
It does. It does. It does.
Doesn't hurt
It's
me
a
at
matter
all.
of fact, and it's hurting me too. For a matter of fact, because I'm suffering, and I'm tired of suffering.
So am I, Mr.
That's
Walker.
why some of you motherfuckers gonna get killed. That's why y'all gonna start dying. Some motherfuckers gonna start killing y'all. That's all I got to say.
We often have people like this, though, okay, who are abusive, who will not settle down, will not cooperate in terms of examination or blood works, just diagnostic tests. If they get very bad, then we can't see them, okay, because we have to protect our house staff and our nursing personnel. Okay. And if they are totally uncontrollable and we don't think they're psychotic, then they are arrested.
I remember one night I was called about 4 a.m. by a male nurse who was twice the size of me and said, "Doctor, I wish you'd come quickly because 4 or 5 of the drug addicts are just going crazy." And I came over to the ward and there were a few little old ladies totally terrified and huddled behind curtains, and there were 3 drug addicts all hooked up to, you know, drips with their antibiotics going in. And they were as high as kites, and they were jiving around the ward with their transistor radios hanging from straps from their shoulders. They were abusing all the patients. They were shouting. They had obviously shot up heroin through their IV lines at visiting hour, which is very common.
Through their intravenous
Oh
lines?
yeah, I mean, what better way? You're a drug addict, you've no veins left anyway.
High on the 7th floor of Cook County, above locked staircases and guarded doors, medicine meets incarceration. The hospital has the job of tending Chicago's large prison population.
Do you have to wear them at night?
Yeah.
In bed?
24.
All the time?
Gotta sleep with them.
What's that like?
It's rough.
What are you in here for?
Possession of narcotics.
And what brings you to the hospital?
When they stopped me to arrest me, I ate a bunch of narcotics and overdosed.
You actually swallowed the stuff to hide it?
Yeah.
What happened to you?
My recollection of it's pretty hazy. I guess I was in a coma for a while.
Bad days when we shinkled to the bed at 24 hours a day. We be shinkled to this, don't be on our legs, just be on the side of the bed. You know, it's just happened to be one of the fortunate days, you know, that we're not shinkled to the bed.
Most of Chicago's prisoners are black. When a white goes to jail, he may find the racist tables are turned on him. He may be beaten up by his black cellmates.
Nose, they broke my nose over there. 4 guys, they jumped on me, you know. No, you know, over there in prison, you know, it's rough. It is. It's rough. I mean, you know, you get in fights over there, you know, when you don't want to get in one, you know. And there just ain't no backing down.
What you want me to do? Pick him up? I can't pick him up.
Something. We had him in a wheelchair. He was in a wheelchair.
And what is so we get a wheelchair, put him on a stretcher.
After a futile struggle with authority, Dwayne Curtis is down. For an image of frustration, he'd be hard to equal. Intelligent, articulate, bitter, wasted, crippled.
Come on, Curtis. Come on. Curtis, sit up. Come on. Curtis, you gotta bend at the waist. Curtis, sit back in that chair.
Hey.
Come on, here. Yes.
Hey, come on, man. We ain't got all day to fool with you. Come on. You playing a fool, man.
I was coming in for 2 weeks to get some man.
Everybody want to move away? Move away.
Send them people on about the
Back
business.
in the wheelchair, Curtis.
Send them people on about the business, Mark.
Dwayne Curtis goes off to prison. America has it both ways with Cook County. When private hospitals want to dump poor patients, then Cook County is their dustbin. But ironically, when private hospitals have cases too serious for them, then Cook County's expertise is acknowledged. They'll rush private patients hundreds of miles to make use of its renowned specialists.
I feel this baby was much less painful than the other.
Okay. Have you ever been here for anything else?
Mm-mm.
Okay. We'll see you in the morning. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
The hospital may have to close, but in the obstetrics ward at the moment, doctors like Phyllis Gerber are still delivering more babies than any other hospital in Chicago and treating the young mothers of the ghetto.
50% of the patients who come through the OB wards to deliver
come to the high-risk wards. This is a high-risk ward, meaning that there are complications of pregnancy. Most of the patients who come up through this ward are either slightly overweight or more than slightly overweight, moderately obese. A number of them are suffering from high blood pressure, the high blood pressure being related to their state of nutrition. In addition to that, there are a number of mothers who die yearly because they're involved in gunshot wounds, or they have accidents, or they're involved in some sort of trauma. In fact, that's the greatest cause of maternal mortality in the city of Chicago, a pregnant mother dying from a gunshot wound. You don't find that anyplace else in the world.
I was born here, really, but I started coming here in '75.
You've heard that they're talking about closing this hospital. What would that mean to you?
People in trouble. Some people's in trouble. There's a lot of people in trouble.
Good luck with the baby.
Okay, thank you.
Just leave the key, please, okay? No, just leave there, Lena. No. Okay, here. You know what?
The alcoholic patient's struggle is not going well.
It's not. It's coming out. Back here.
All right, Mike. Coming to relief.
We are in the midst of a severe economic crisis, and there's a move across the country to cut back on all these public services. Every major city in this country, there are forces trying to close down the public hospitals. And every major city, there are big movements trying to keep them open. And I think that there's no doubt that people understand that these hospitals are absolutely necessary, and there's a big fight everywhere to keep them open.
What keeps you all here, working here? You could all make a lot more money in the private sector.
Certainly, you can make a lot more money in the private sector.
How much more in your case?
Well, I'm still in training, so it wouldn't be that much. For our attending physicians who are finished with training, we're talking about 2 and 3 times as much money in the private sector.
What keeps you all here, then?
I think, personally, I find it inexcusable to work and obnoxious to work at a hospital where you have 2 standards of health care right there in the hospital, where the private patients get the rooms with the carpets and the public patients get the oldest part of the hospital, which is what happens in a number of our private hospitals. I'd much rather all of us be in an old building than have some of us have nice rooms and some patients not. Also, I'm a black physician and I have a commitment to take care of my people, and most of them come here, and that's one of the reasons I'm here.
At this moment, for this hospital to close in this city would be incredibly dangerous for the people that use this hospital.
Connected to a fleet of expensive machines, surrounded by a task force of doctors, with probably more state money being spent on him than in his entire life, one black man has given up.
You'll get a clean sheet.
Is that the end?
I think that's the end for this gentleman.
You've been working on him for about 2 hours.
Yeah, but since about 1:30.
Was it not possible to do anything in the end with all the effort and all the staff and all the equipment you've used?
Well, body loses its vitality. You know, you get into a downward spiral where you originally have some problem which you try and compensate through by management, by drugs, and by CPR. And then if that somehow doesn't arrest the spiral downward, then everything you do seems to further complicate it. Like you're giving him a lot of fluids that can build up in his lungs, and that builds up in his lungs, and he can't breathe, and he can't breathe. You know, what you basically try and do is support his basic life functions, and hopefully he'll come around sooner or later. But
our patients represent the crystallized oppressions of our society as expressed in illness. It was once said, there's no room for a middle position at county. You're either a hard rock hater of the poor, concluding that this is God's justice for all their bad habits, their over-ingestion of booze and drugs, for their nasty sexual behavior and their general uncleanliness. And while you may still be willing to care out of some religious or moral conviction, this is divine retribution. There's another view, and it's my view, that what we're seeing here are the most oppressed of our society, the most vulnerable, those least equipped by education, by birth, by economic resources to resist the numerous oppressions of our society, from the air we breathe to the nasty housing that the poor are condemned to. And it ends up in all variety of diseases. Certainly there's moral deterioration. Certainly a huge portion of our population relies on alcohol to relieve their pain. But the conclusion you draw from that analysis is that you're dealing with a total societal failure. And working with the health question, you can begin that transformation that will make us more civilized than we are.
You don't need no money at county, okay? You know that. Why don't you put it back in your pocket, George? You don't need to use money here. You know. We'll take care of you without money, George.